Hello. How are you?
Good. Right, something's gone wrong with my sound.
Oh, I can hear you.
Hello, hello. Oh,
Hi.
that's better. How is
I'm
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just looking at these dark circles, and I'm like, really, my eyes don't look like this, but never mind.
Oh no, you look lovely as ever.
Oh, this is why I love you.
Oh, so we're here today, Parent
Mm,
Plug-in. My name is Kemi, and this is the
Nalini.
lovely. And today we are talking. I think we're kind of following on a bit from last week, aren't we? Where we spoke about parenting styles, but
Mm.
today we are talking about the lovely Michelle Obama, who posted who, who, well, I think we posted a little snippet of what she was saying about friendships and parenting.
Mm.
And I think the question is, I'm going to put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Should we be
Mm.
friends with our children?
Uh, uh,
Keeping it
mm,
simple.
Keeping it simple. No.
I'm
No, was that simple
going to
enough?
put, should we ever try and like
Okay, no. Okay. Ever is like saying that, until I'm gone and they're in their 50s, like I should never be their friend. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying um, until they get to an adult age, um, that they should be our child.
okay.
Yeah, because right now I think what they need is, I mean, this is my opinion, because, and also this is how I parent, right? I think the way I look at it is, right now they need someone that disciplines them or gives them there's some sort of authority
Yeah.
figure in me, right? As open-minded and as chatty as I am, dude, I'm still the parent,
Mm.
right? Um, but saying that, when they get older, it'd be nice to sit down and have a glass of wine with my kids, have a chin wag, when they are at that age where they can socialize with me like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Right. uh,
Yeah.
because I have, I mean, touch wood, like I have a beautiful relationship with my parents today,
Mm.
never had when I lived at home.
And, and there's an age appropriateness now, isn't there? You're an adult, they're an adult. It's an adult to adult relationship.
Yeah,
But
that's
as children, they are children, we are the parents. So it's an adult child
yeah,
relationship. It's a parent child relationship.
yes.
And there'll be things of that we as adults, there's two sides of it. I think there's also the side of being that parent that over confides in your child.
Mm-hmm.
So you're discussing with your child adult dilemmas,
Mm-hmm.
things that you should be discussing with your own friends
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, and not appreciating that children have their own levels of anxieties and pressures, um, to have to take on whatever issues that a parent might be facing
Mm-hmm.
isn't really
Yeah.
healthy, in my opinion.
Yes.
Um, and I think also, but then I'm wondering, are there some pluses to having that kind of friendship dynamic with your child?
Well, it depends. Okay, so my children's father used to say to me all the time, you have a very honest relationship with the children,
Mm-hmm.
because honesty is the only way forward for me. I mean, it's the only way for me, right? um but even now, although I'm honest with my kids, there are still some things that are personal.
Yeah.
There are still some things that my children have no need to know, right? So even though we discuss meals and discuss weekends and what we're doing and how we're feeling and all that kind of stuff, I'm still the parent,
Yeah.
right? Um, I mean, it's funny because I had this conversation with my son this evening while we are having dinner, actually. And I said to him, I said, I'm not happy today.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah, I know, I know. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not. Because at the end of the day, I'm still the parent. And I've asked you to give me 40 minutes of your time to do X, Y, and Z. And you've not delivered. And he's like, yeah, but I had 2 exams today. I'm a blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I said, you're going to find an excuse every single time to give me, and
Mm.
you won't deliver. Right. And he's like, oh, and I said, no. I said, if I've asked you for it, then I expect you to deliver.
Mm.
Like I said, there's no gadgets for you. And he just looked at me and said, oh, and he walked off. Right. But again, it is trying to enforce my authority, but still having that open relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what gets lost in the friendship parent dynamic is the authority.
Yeah.
Like the parent has the risk of losing that authority over the child, like in that sense, yeah, it's fair to say the authority over their children.
Yeah. Because their concern is more to be the friend
Mm.
than to be the parent.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, if you look at, okay, so if you look at families that were once families, but they're now in two separate households,
Mm-hmm.
there's one person that overcompensates and the other one that doesn't compensate,
Right.
right? And the one that overcompensate is the one generally that wants to be the friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you've lost the parent identity and now you've become the friend identity because that's how you want to conduct that relationship
Yeah.
because you're overcompensating.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that happens in every single family to have to family household. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
that. But on a general, that's what happens. Or you find the mum, or you find a parent, not fair to say the mum, but you find a parent that looks at their daughter and says, oh, but you're my bestie. And I'm like, okay, but where's the mum?
Yeah.
You know, because children kind of get confused. And if you're too busy being friends, then there's no one holding up the ship.
And the other thing I think is that children
Mm,
need to find their own sense of identity, and they get that through growing and learning and so on. And if there's this strong friendship dynamic between the parent and the child,
mm,
I think there's a risk of that child not exposing themselves to other friends of their own age, because I don't need to have friends really. I don't need to trust XYZ in my class,
mm,
because when I get home I can have this long, deep, meaningful conversation
mm,
with my parents. So
mm,
that parent child friendship can overshadow what would be an age appropriate friendship. And yeah, friends can come and go, they fall out,
mm,
it doesn't last forever, and all of these kind of things. But there's a lot of learning and self-discovery that comes through those relationships.
mm.
And
That's right.
if you're like, as a parent, if you're kind of standing in the gap or just being that friend to your child, you may be just blocking their growth and
Yeah,
development.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Because in some ways you are hindering it,
Mm,
and like you said, they're not doing the age appropriate
yeah.
things. You know, they're coming home, sitting with their parents, sitting there watching them have a drink and talking about all the adult stuff, but then there's no your
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah.
There is a sense, I think, of having a balance though, because I think that there's the positives of having that friendship, of friendly. I don't know whether it's about being friendly or just having the kind of, is that you can have a child
Mm,
who trusts you
mm,
and wants to share their experiences and doesn't close up and is quite open with their
mm,
parent, because you kind of cultivated to a degree
mm,
that friendship parent dynamic, so you can have like a real trust, you know, talk about things that maybe some other parents might
mm,
shy away from,
mm, mm, mm,
that your child may come up to you and say, I've got this boyfriend, I've got
mm,
this girlfriend, um this is happening at school, I'm being intimate, and you just like, as much as we're talking about age appropriate things, but to have that insight into what your child might be experiencing,
mm.
whether it's appropriate for their age or not, and to be able to speak into those situations, could be the positive that comes from having that friendship relationship where there is that trust and
Yeah,
your child feels open to share.
yeah. But again, it's that friendly relationship. I'm not your friend.
It's a friendly relationship, but I'm
Yeah,
not your friend. So making it very clear.
yes,
We can be friendly, but
yeah,
we're not friends.
yeah. So when Mira was little, and I mean really little, you know, she used to say, "Oh, you're my best friend," and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
I'm
I'm
your mum. Mm.
right, and I think I made it very clear to my children from very young. I am the parent, and you are my child.
Yeah.
You know, as close as we are, as much as we have a laugh and a banter, I am still the parent. You know, and it's getting harder for me now because Ardemin is a lot taller than I am,
Mhm.
and I mean, he must be a good 3 inches taller than me now,
Mm.
and it's getting to a point where it's you know, I'm starting to look up a little bit to have to talk to him, you know, and to having to put my foot down, having to you know, um stand my ground, you know, for me starting to get a little bit harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tricky. It's tricky, and I don't think my height really helps. Like, just it doesn't help me anymore. You know, I'm gonna have to get up on a stool and have to start talking to this kid just to discipline him. You know, but it's oh my
But
god,
the height should. I know you were being facetious,
yeah.
but it's the height shouldn't really matter, really, should it? You
No,
know, our children are going to outgrow us. It's mainly about. I think the importance is the boundaries that
yeah,
our children understand, or children understand
yeah,
boundaries, and as parents, I think there are times when, actually, as we're getting old, I think modern day parenting, if that's what I would call it, compared to like the kind of parenting that I experienced, boundaries are becoming slightly harder to set. And I'm
yes,
probably being modest. I think really hard to set. Boundaries are becoming really hard to set in homes now, because we're up against so many other things. We're up against social media, we're up against children just getting access to information and feeling like they're mature way ahead of their years,
mm,
where in
mm,
fact they're not. And without the boundaries, we leave children are left exposed and probably feeling
mm,
unsafe.
mm. Yeah, absolutely, 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 and when I was training many years ago, sorry, when I was training many years ago, my trainer gave us this one example of her
Mhm.
childhood, her mum was like, and what her best friend's parents were like,
Mhm.
right? And she said her mum was the one that waited by the door. You said, "Why are you late?" Kind of mum
Mhm.
she had, right? Always on it, always. Where are you? What are you doing? What time you came back? That kind of parent, right? But her best friend's parents were not like that at all. They would ask where the child was going, what time you would be back. There was no interaction like that.
Right.
So my trainer at that time, she turned around and said, she was having a conversation with her best friend, obviously at that time, and said, "I wish my mum was a bit like your parents." And her best friend turned around and said, "I wish my parents were like your mum."
Interesting.
Right? Um, and yeah, like you said, I found that extremely interesting as well when she said it, because um, the way I looked at it was the best friend clearly uh, yearned for that kind of relationship with their parent, right? To just engage, to know, to find out what's going on with me, as opposed to me feeling like I'm growing up by myself,
Mm.
right? Whereas my trainer, she was more on the side of, I just wish I had more freedom.
Right. And this is interesting because you spoke about overcompensating earlier
Mm,
in two different, and I suppose that's out of a relationship breakdown.
mm,
But then there's a sense of overcompensating because some parents can feel the need to provide for their children
mm,
in areas or overcompensate in the areas where they felt that their needs weren't met as a child.
mm,
So if they felt that they weren't listened to, they couldn't
mm,
be free open, they want to create this family dynamic or parental relationship where their child feels free and open to talk,
mm,
and in doing that they veer to the extreme of I'm going to be your friend,
mm, mm. Yeah.
or this whole and I think this was what came up in that that little post was that pet children children should experience unfairness first at home before they experience it outside the home or when they're in their 30s. So it's great. It's great. I think we should all give ourselves, parents should give themselves a pat on the back. We should give ourselves a pat on the back when our children say, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a sign that, yeah, you're doing something
Yeah.
right, because it's not supposed to be, understand that it may seem like it's not fair,
Mm.
but it's meant to be like that.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
outcome.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is a good outcome. And I think for many reasons, is it's teaching children, like you said, boundaries, right? But it's also teaching children, um, you're not always going to get your way in life. Life
Yeah.
doesn't work like that.
And there's going to be rules that you won't like.
That's right. And no matter where you go, you are going to have to follow.
Yeah.
You know,
Those rules. Yeah.
that's you. There's no
Even
way that you.
even if you break the rules and you end up in prison, you still got more rules when you're inside.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And if children don't learn that in the house, then they do struggle outside. Getting to hear the word no from somebody else when you've never heard it in the house, that's a hard pill to swallow.
I know. And just to think of an adult growing up and not being able to accept the word no,
Yeah,
how dangerous
yeah,
that is.
absolutely. Or even the thought of failure,
Mm.
right? Even the thought of failure. Oh my God, I can't fail. Oh my, like, oh, what's that going to do to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, failure is another thing. It's um, yeah, I think that comes with a lot of baggage anyway.
That's a big conversation, isn't it? If we were going to speak about um, teaching our children to fail, because I think myself and you are probably quite similar.
Mm,
It would be like, I don't feel that I'm the parent that would be, you've got to, I'm going to push you to win. Winning is essential. Winning is the ultimate goal. You must win. I think I would be like, you've got to be okay with the failure.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're right, because I think we are very similar in that sense that life is about living, and it's not about being top rank at everything. You know, life's not about that, and not everybody can do that. You know, not everybody can do that, and I've seen parents do that to children, and you know, to the point they're top of everything, on top of the world, you know, and they've not experienced a fall down yet. Yeah, that scares me.
Yeah, not to have experienced it.
Yeah. You know, it's like now you're in your mid-20s and you've not fallen down yet.
Yeah.
What's that going to look like when you do? You know, and I guess for the parent, it's just about the win.
Yeah.
So there's no thought process behind it, right?
And it's also, how many people will that person trample over in order to win? You know, where does the compassion and the empathy come from? It's those are other things that you learn at home, don't you? You learn about what compassion looks like. You learn what empathy looks like. You learn what humility looks like. And I know they're probably all the soft things that you can learn at home, but we also want our children to learn what focus looks like, what discipline looks like, what hard work and diligence looks like. So I do think, yeah, parenting is hard, but it's about understanding and getting that balance for our children.
Yeah, yes, there is that. You know, the way I look at it, Kemi, no matter what we do, right, no matter what we do, they still have a journey to walk of their own, right? Because life is an experience, got to be experienced, right? You've got to learn it.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how, you know, and that's why I feel like when I look at my kids, you know, because after our conversation last week, you know, I had to reflect on myself because I heard the way I spoke about the way I do parenting, and how I've always self-reflected and all that kind of stuff. And I had to reflect because I thought, well, where am I coming from? And I had to stop and I thought to myself, I thought, you come from a spiritual viewpoint. So the way I look at life is from a very spiritual perspective. Right? So the way I parent is also from a spiritual perspective. You know, it's a journey. Yeah. And my job in this journey with my children is to just make sure, or to try my best to show them what all those kind things are. You know, for me, if I can bring my children up showing them empathy, compassion, kindness, care, all those things that money cannot buy. Yeah, if I can show my children that, I feel that my children are going to be happy children or happy adults because they've had the balance of life. They would have learnt, they would have seen what life is like with their dad. They would have seen what life is like with me, and they get a balance, right? So for me, I've always looked at it as I want to bring up children that add value to society. Yeah. So this is my perspective, and this is why I do what I do with my kids. But saying all this, yeah, they still have a journey of their own. So no matter how I try and paint that canvas with the most prettiest lilacs and purples and reds and oranges and yellows, right? There are going to be things, black market, well, some sort of colored marking on it that I can't get rid of because that's something that they would have had to learn for themselves. Do you see
Yeah.
what I mean? No matter how good or how hard we try, that child has a journey of their own to
Yeah.
make, and all we can do right now is just be there
Yeah.
and lead by example,
Yeah.
right? I can't be a psychopath, however you want to look at that, and tell my children to be good. It doesn't work.
Yeah. When you talk about lead by example,
Do you see what I mean? You've got to set the stage for them to want to
the
follow.
motto or the saying "do as I say and not as I do" just doesn't translate, does it?
No, not at all. Not at
In modern
all.
day thing. Well, so I think we've probably concluded. So, firstly, is that there's a place for being friends with your children.
Yes.
It's got to be age appropriate. It's probably when they become
Yes.
adults, but when they're children, we ought to be really thinking about rules, boundaries, authority in the home, because we know that's what makes our children feel safe. We know that it's great for them to develop their self-identity, helps them with their self-esteem. But then there is really giving them the space to explore and go through their own journey as well. So as parents, we shouldn't put too much pressure on ourselves to try and do it all for them. I
Yeah.
think there's this modern day of, I think now it's a lot, everything's therapeutic, everything is about therapy and
Yeah.
mental health and their well-being and development, and we probably want to do everything we can possibly can to make our children resilient and able to just muster through
Yeah.
life, but we can't do it all, and I think we've got to give ourselves grace to accept that we can't do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to accept the fact that, you know, just like when they were toddlers, they had to learn to walk.
Yeah.
And when they were learning, they fell down,
Yeah.
right? Um, and you were there to help them, right? That's how they are going to learn everything else in life. They're going to fall in love for the first time and get their heart broken, right? Right? But you're going to be there to help them
Yeah.
get back up, right? Well, if you're lucky to do that, right? Um, we are, yeah. It's an experience.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
an experience, and no matter how we look at it, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And your relationship with your children enables them to come to you.
Yeah.
Come to you.
Great.
Yes.
You know what? This may be the first time we finish our parent plug-in early. So if we're disciplined to just stick to one topic each week, we're just like, yeah, 8:30.
Time for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
No.
know what I think? I thought it was really interesting sharing that post from Michelle Obama. And then another one that I saw that I think we should really pin for next week is the gift of, I'm going to call it the gift of therapy.
Okay.
So during the week, we're going to put on our Instagram post a reel from Kerry Washington,
Okay.
who basically said something along the lines of therapy is a gift. And I think it's important. I want to really discuss, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd like to discuss that next week in the sense of young people, adults, there's a stigmatism around mental health. And there's a stigma.
Stigma. Yeah.
Stigmatism goes on your eyes, isn't it? There's a stigma around mental health, and there's a stigma around getting help. So we come across in the at the Gifted a lot of young people who kind of see our intervention as a mental health intervention when we're not mental health practitioners. We're just coming with the tools to help raise self-esteem, understand your identity, build your resilience, set boundaries in your own relationships, and think about being aspirational. So we basically take young people on that journey. But there'll be some young people and some parents who will see the Gifted or see some of the things that we do in schools and say, no, we don't want our children to engage in that because my children don't have an issue with their self-esteem, or they don't have any mental health issues, so they don't need to. But I think it'd be really interesting to talk about the stigma that's attached to it and how we can break down those that idea
about therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to invite anyone that wants to come on the show and talk with us. So if you have got some insights into this, let's have a conversation together.
Yeah. It's a hot topic. Something that does need to be changed. Yeah, I'm all for it. I am an advocate for therapy. I think everybody should go on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. All right, shall we call it a night?
We'll call it a night. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And next week we'll be talking about the gift of therapy. So do come and join us, and you're welcome to come on the show as well. There's space for more voices.
All right. Thanks, Kemi.
Have a good week.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.